get started in our conversations on CARICOM. This morning, we're happy to be joined yet again by Barbados Ambassador to CARICOM, His Excellency David Comissiong. Ambassador Comissiong, good morning to you.
Good morning, Pearson. Pleasure to be here.
You're back from the UK.
From the cold.
From the cold. That's one point of view. But there is an advocacy group of which you're a part. Tell us, who comprised that group and why were you on this mission to the United Kingdom?
Yes, so I was invited by the CARICOM Reparations Commission to be part of their team, which went on a very historic one-week advocacy visit to the UK to advocate on the issue of reparations. The team was led by Sir Hilary Beckles. It was a six-person team. It also included Dr. Hilary Brown of the CARICOM Secretariat and other members of the CARICOM Reparations Commission. We were hosted by the Institute of Commonwealth Studies, which is a part of the University of London. And so we spent the week. I tell you, one of the main reasons why this visit was so important is that, CARICOM launched this reparations claim back in 2013, and the CARICOM Reparations Commission is the regional body that has been charged with taking forward the reparations campaign. But there are elements in the United Kingdom, especially rooted in the right-wing media, who are determined to derail the reparations campaign and are seeking to do so by stereotyping it and feeding this misconception to the British people that the reparations campaign is all about these people from the Caribbean simply presenting an enormous bill for trillions of pounds and trying to break the British Treasury. Now, that is not what our reparations campaign is about. In fact, we made it very clear from the time that we launched the campaign that our campaign is about reparatory justice. We said back in 2013 that the 21st century must be the century of reparative justice. So for us, reparations has never been about simply, some kind of money grab, right? It has been about acknowledging the most profound crime in human history, and all of the negative consequences of that crime that still exist today. Much of what is wrong with the world today is rooted in that crime that was committed against the black or African people of the world for 400 years. Not only was slavery imposed on this section of the human family, but with that went a calculated dehumanization of this section of the human family. I mean, our people were even denied human status. And that set in train a whole process of plunder, extractive plunder, economies built on that notion. You plunder Africa for its people, and then you plunder it for its land territory, you plunder it for its resources. And much of what is wrong with the world today has its roots in that experience. And so the reparations campaign is saying, look, we cannot sweep this under the carpet. We have to acknowledge it. And we have to acknowledge it not only because of we have to do justice to all those people, all that suffering of the past, but also because of the present, because the consequences of it are still with us. And so let us acknowledge it. Let us sit around the table and let us discuss how can we repair this damage and create a different world, a different future for humanity. So we met with We met with high commissioners, parliamentarians, academics, researchers, civil society groups. We held a press conference. Sir Hilary did a lecture at the University of London. We did a town hall meeting. We had a special meeting with the Guardian newspaper, which really has been the most responsible newspaper in the UK in terms of presenting a fair and balanced account of the reparations movement. So, all in all, a very historic visit, and I would say that we made tremendous headway. Our message resonated with everybody that to be engaged with.
And that's important because it's who was at the table if we want to see the change that we want to have coming out of this effort. And as I'm listening to you as well, I'm thinking, I wonder if Bajans are thinking, or people of the Caribbean are thinking, are you all tired of this? Why do you put yourself in a position where someone seems not to care about the message you bring? But you're saying, no, the tide is beginning to change, and are you seeing the change that you're seeking to see?
Oh yes, we are definitely making progress. I mean, even in terms of the message getting through, the message has gotten through to several sectors of the European population. Not the governments yet, but families, universities, companies, various institutions that have responded positively to the reparations claim. There are several families. In fact, they've formed a group, a number of these establishment families in England, whose roots are in those centuries of enslavement. They call themselves heirs of slavery. And several of them have come forward and said, yes, we acknowledge much of our present wealth comes out of that exploitation of African people. We apologize, and we want to help to repair some of the damage that our family helped to perpetuate. So we're seeing that. We're seeing universities like Glasgow University, for example. We're seeing several companies. What we are not seeing yet is the governments. And the governments represent the institutional link between the present and the past. And so it is very important that the governments come to the table. The other thing is that, as I said, reparations is about helping us all to acknowledge that crime and the consequences of that crime, and to address those consequences in a constructive way. But it is also helping us, the members of the African family, first of all, to get to know our history better, but also to get to know and to partner with other components of our family in a more intimate way. So what do I mean by this? Well, just in September, the CARICOM governments went to Addis Ababa in Ethiopia for that second Africa CARICOM Heads of Government Summit. And at that summit, we put together this partnership between Africa and the Caribbean, between CARICOM and the African Union, on reparations. So hence, in London, we didn't only meet with High Commissioners of CARICOM. We also met with High Commissioners of the African Union. So we are coming together because damage was done to us in the Caribbean, but just as much damage was done to our African, continental African brothers and sisters. So this is one of the big new developments, this coming together of Africa and the Caribbean. And we're going to have a wonderful opportunity next year in the Caribbean to show the power of that partnership, because Antigua and Barbuda is hosting the Commonwealth Heads of Government Summit right here in the Caribbean. And we're going to use that summit to put the issue of reparations directly on the Commonwealth agenda, and to put it right before the British government in our neighborhood. And so these are some of the very important developments. I have said, coming out of this visit, that and the way in which our message resonated so positively, I want us to do follow-up visits. I would like us to go and speak directly to the political parties of Britain. Let us go into the lion's den, so to speak.
Yes.
Some of these right-wing parties, conservative parties, but it is easy. You see, it is easy for someone to be very dismissive of what you say from a distance, or to stereotype you from a distance. But it's a different thing when they have to sit around a table with you and actually listen to you and actually have to engage with you. So for me, I think the next step really should be that we repeat that kind of visit, but this time we target political parties, trade unions, the church. I mean, the Anglican Church, 2 years ago, we made a very big breakthrough with the Anglican Church in Britain when they acknowledged their complicity and indicated, they apologized and indicated that they need to make some gesture of repair.
We're having our conversations on CARICOM with Barbados Ambassador to CARICOM, His Excellency David Comissiong, who was a part of a group that traveled to the United Kingdom recently, and he's now back to share with us some of those meetings and experiences and conclusions, or perhaps continuations of discussions. Part of which you mentioned was a visit to the university with a lecture delivered by Sir Hilary Beckles. I'm curious to know what was that subject about and what was the response to that matter?
So, well, we had two of those engagements. We had the lecture at the University of London, and then we had the town hall meeting at the University of Birmingham. So Hilary gave the lecture, and as I said, one of our major functions was to counteract that stereotypical negative image that the right-wing media has been trying to present. So Hilary really went into the core of our reparations message, the idea of reparative justice. And after the lecture, as people were, and it was a full house, I mean, full house, people couldn't get in. But after the lecture, as people were filing out, I was listening to some of the comments, and some of the, I heard this striking comment more than once. I found that so moving. I don't understand. I'm not quite sure why I found it so moving, but it was something very moving about it. And then somebody said it is because they were so open and honest. Because in addition to Sir Hilary, we also had other members of the panel who, after Sir Hilary spoke, went up to the stage and fielded questions and so forth. And that was the sentiment. I heard that sentiment, that word moving. Yes. I heard that word about 3 times. It was moving. So, and I also heard, and he wasn't angry. He wasn't bitter. He elevated there was a nobility about the message, and I think that was the hallmark of the entire visit. That the way in which our reparations message was presented, it was presented as this is a philosophy at a higher level of humanity, of trying to bring justice, trying to elevate human relationships to a higher and more noble level, and trying seriously to deal with many of the disabilities that are plaguing the world. I mean, so Hilary, for example, at the press conference, spoke about Hurricane Melissa and how it had ravaged Jamaica. And he made the point that the portion of Jamaica that was really seriously ravaged was Plantation Jamaica. It was that part of Jamaica that is still reflective of those centuries of slavery and plantation culture. And it is precisely that part of Jamaica that has the poorest housing, the poorest infrastructure, the poorest and most vulnerable people. And it was that part of Jamaica that was really devastated by the hurricane. So he was showing how this is not in the past. This is very much part of our present. And our message is, let us come together and clean up and repair. Let us repair our civilization.
Darkness exists where ignorance exists. And so meeting with the media so that you begin to shed the light on what reparations means and what from the Caribbean's perspective, what our request is. How did those meetings go when you sat with editors of the media?
Yes, well, we had the press conference where all of the media was invited, and we took the opportunity at that press conference to speak directly to one or two of those right-wing media entities that have been doing so much mischief and so much damage. But we also had, in addition to that open press conference, we had an engagement with the media house in the UK that we think has been the most responsible, the most knowledgeable, and the most balanced in how they do their reporting on reparations. That's the Guardian newspaper. And so we had a very good engagement with them, where we were able to further explain to them. We actually went to the premises of the Guardians. We had a meeting with editors and journalists, and we were able to further explain the reparations campaign, where we're going with it, the more recent developments. But and they too were able to give us some insights into their own work on reparations, because unlike any other media house in the UK, that newspaper has actually done an investigation into its own complicity in the crime. And so they have, there we are.
There we are. But
yes.
I'll tell you what I read from this. You're not on the outside of the Guardian, you're on the inside.
Yes,
and that's where the change starts. So you can look at me from the outside, but we are looking at you while outside, inside, arguing and changing the narrative, or being a part of the change of that narrative. So that to me is a very powerful image. But the process has begun. I want to look at Barbados for a second, because you were a Barbados ambassador to CARICOM. And oftentimes we sit and we wonder, why is Barbados so engaged in this whole quest for reparations?
Well, I brought along with me this book that we have discussed here already. And I wrote this book to commemorate the 400th anniversary of the British colonization of Barbados, the 14th of May, 1625. So Barbados is at the center of this entire story. Think about it. Barbados is at the birth of the British Empire. Britain's first colony in Virginia, 1608. St. Kitts, 1624. Barbados, 1625. So Barbados is third. However, Barbados quickly became the mother colony. And Barbados developed quickly as a source of enormous wealth for Britain. In the late 17th century, Barbados was more important to Britain than New York, New England, Pennsylvania, all of them put together. Sounds difficult to understand. But it was based on slavery. It was based on Barbados becoming the world's first slave society. So a lot of what is wrong with the world today has its roots in that colonial experiment in Barbados. The birth of the British Empire, the birth of capitalism as a very rapacious, extractive way of organizing an economy that loots and plunders, the birth of the climate crisis. Barbados was central to the development of that European industrial civilization and the climate crisis that it has spawned. The very idea of white supremacy, white supremacy, the idea that African people could be dehumanized and their humanity denied, and that idea could be put in a piece of legislation, the famous 1661 Barbados Slavery Code. That was the model that was taken to Jamaica, taken to South Carolina, all across what became the United States of America. So Barbados is at the center of this entire story. And to the extent that we investigate our own history and get to understand the critical role that we played in the construction of this modern world with all of its deficiencies and defects and savagery, to the extent that we investigate that, we Barbadians will develop penetrating insights into what is wrong with the world, that is rooted in that monumental crime, and what role we have to play in helping to have that history acknowledged and in helping to address the consequences of that crime. So it is not just by chance that the head of the CARICOM Reparations Commission is a Barbadian, Sir Hilary Beckles. It is not by chance that the head of the CARICOM Prime Ministerial Subcommittee on Reparations is Barbados. Prime Minister, whoever is our Prime Minister Mia Mottley at this point in time. So Barbados is at the core of this reparations campaign, and rightly so, because this little country, a lot of these things that eventually mushroomed and became, international phenomena actually had their roots, their start right here in Barbados. And it was my hope that, we would have used this 400th anniversary year to really, as a nation, as a people, to really investigate our history and all that it has to teach us. I don't think we have done that sufficiently. I mean, I made that effort with doing this booklet. But we really need to do it because we need to have a better, all of us who live on this island need to have a better understanding of the very, very critical role that we have played in the construction of modernity and the responsibility that we now have to play a role in correcting so many of those defects.
Thus the purpose for the visit to United Kingdom. Ambassador, we have to leave it right there. I think it behoves all of us really to get to know ourselves better, and understanding ourselves better, we see what we can do to correct the ills and to advocate for others as well as we go. I thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you, Pearson.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.